afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Engine Shed. Today it's just going to be a nice little quick one for the budget modeler. So today I've been working on the scenery again over near the train station and the hillsides, but today I'm just going to do some retaining walls. Now, one other thing about retaining walls, you can do the cast kits, you can get the linker molds and do it that way. I'm doing a little bit cheap just to see how it looks. I mean, I could always change it later. So what I've done is I've purchased a texture pack from Scale Scenes. Now, whoever doesn't know what Scale Scenes is, it's basically printable textures. And you can download it from their website, and the link will be in the description below for everyone to check out. So what we're going to do today, we're using this texture TX number 45. So it's basically a random ashlar brick. It's kind of got the nice color. I wish it was just a little bit more gray, but we can probably tweak that a little bit in the print settings. But regardless, for what you get, you can download any texture you want. I bought the entire texture pack, so I've got basically a whole litany to choose from, but this one just looked the nicest against the green grass. But anyway, today we're going to just cut these down to size. So a couple of things you're going to need to do this properly. An X-Acto knife would be very, very helpful. And on top of that, you'll need some dimensions and a notepad, which we've got here, and a steel rule, as well as pencil, pen, whatever you have at your disposal. So this is really an easy way of getting good results out of a retaining wall without spending huge amounts of money. I mean, you do need to print the textures on about a 200 GSM paper, but you can get that from any office supply store for next to nothing. And in fact, I got a ream of about 400 sheets for something like $15. So aside from the cost of the paper and the cost of ink, it's a good solution, but done right, it looks really, really effective. You don't necessarily get the depth of field that you would with a resin cast, but that's fine. That's not necessarily the end of the world. But I digress. So we're going to just start with a couple of these sheets. We're going to cut these down to size. So you can see here, I've taken some dimensions. Basically, we've got a retaining wall on the back of the platform. The platform is under here. In fact, I'll write that in pen so you can see it. And we've got the retaining wall that basically diverts back down, and we've got the hillside up the top here. There we go, just had to make sure the camera was in focus. So we've got the hillside back here, we've got dimensions here, 100mm high. Then it tapers down to a 65mm high. It drops off at the end of the platform here and then goes back up to 60mm high, over 100mm sections. So I'll just write that down actually. And this one's 120mm. So all we're going to do is we're going to trace those dimensions out onto this sheet. We're going to cut it with this blade. And I would advise, guys, if you do have one of these are using titanium blades, so these things don't dull very quickly, which if you're using foam core or card or anything like that, the typical stainless steel blades can actually dull quite quickly. These titanium blades last forever. Well, I say forever, they last a hell of a lot longer than steel blades anyway. But they are a little bit more expensive, but they are definitely worth it. So check it out, and you can get them to fit any of these card cutting blades, generally from hardware stores. So cool, we've got the dimensions. So we'll start with the 100mm straight piece. You can see here I've printed out heaps of these, and all you do is print them out, cut them out in squares, which you can do with the same process, but all we're going to do is flip it. As long as you remember that if you draw these things on the back, you've got to invert them basically 180 degrees when you actually stencil out the cut pattern. So we're just going to do the 100mm straight sections, and we can get a couple of these out of this one particular size. Making sure we've got the right. Just a couple of measurements. I'll move this out of the way because it's just taking up too much room. These don't need to be perfect because you can always trim them once you install them. Okay, just with a knife. In fact, I'll do it the other way around so you can see it. Line up your steel rule. So this is why you need a steel rule, because you used a plastic timber rule. This blade would just cut straight through it. making sure your fingers are well clear, because these things will cut you open very easily. Moderate pressure, slow and steady, and just like that you cut your section. So unfortunately we can't get 200mm sections, but we can definitely use this piece for the rest of it. So this is our first part of the wall. We're going to do the rest of it now. Just again checking dimensions. So we've got 120 by 65, down from 100. No, we can't use that because that doesn't go high enough. So let's try again with a different piece. So once again, we're just going to invert 100mm right there. It's pretty easy to square these things up if you cut them square. If you don't, you can get a paper cutter that'll do that for you. 120mm. And 65mm. And back up to the corner to get the right slope. Just like that. Once again with the steel rule, keeping fingers apart. Making sure you double check all your measurements. I've done a few of these, so I don't really need to do it. It's sort of just muscle memory at this point. Moderate pressure. You don't want to tear the paper, but you don't want to score it either. You definitely don't want to cut your fingers, so be very careful. Moderate pressure. Always pulling the knife away from you, by the way. Or at least to the side of you, where practical. There's our section. So we'll just cut the last section on this sheet. We'll glue them on, and then we can do the key pieces, or the support pieces, which requires a bit of foam core, so we'll get to that in just a sec. So we'll do the last piece now. 100mm. Same again, we're going to invert the piece. Just move it over a bit so we're not getting cut lines previously there. 100mm. End piece is going to be 60. And then the top piece will be 85mm. Connect the lines and your piece should be ready to go. Now there's a couple of ways you can glue this down, but the reason you want to use the 250 GSM thick paper is because if you use something like PVA glue or just a standard spray adhesive, what happens is that glue reacts with the paper and can actually discolor the print. So the thicker the paper the better, because it gives you just a bit more of a protective barrier between the glue chemical reaction and the printer ink from the other side. It does discolor quite badly too, especially if left in natural sunlight. It just looks horrendous, so I don't recommend it. So there's a couple of ways that I would recommend going about using this. I prefer using PVA glue on thicker card stuff, especially on foam core, because it gets a far better seal. And there you have it. So essentially, or other way around I should say, the retaining wall is going to come out much like this. I got the wrong piece. There's a 100mm piece. Just like so. And then we will cut out some foam core pieces to cover the seams and create the capstones and the beams and the columns that you traditionally see in your more detailed retaining walls. But relatively quick and easy. We've been going for about 10 minutes now, so let's go over to the glue and let's get that done. Okay, so we're back. We're just about to glue on the last of the piers, and then we'll do some small detailing. So just as before, I like to use PVA glue for this stuff, so just a nice generous bead of PVA glue on the back and on the base. Because this stuff dries clear, you don't need to worry about it getting on the material as such. And then we're just going to approximately lace it and just push up against and just hold it for about 30 seconds to let the glue set a little bit. But you can see the difference that this makes, and barring this one, which is a little bit crooked, but it's not actually crooked, it's just rotated a little bit off axis. So it's made a hell of a difference. And just in addition to that, so that one should be good to go. We're just going to add some pile caps onto the top of these things. So what I used to do that is just some of this grey card. This stuff is literally in abundance wherever you go. You can get this on the back of cardboard boxes and what have you. So all you need to do with that is just cut it up and chuck it on. So I'll just grab some scissors, we can cut some strips off and get it done. So there we have it, folks. Just something really quick for you today. I've got some more work to do with the dress pieces on the top, which just are not participating, so I'll just work on that a little bit more over the next week or so. But scale scenes, TX45 texture, just some foam core and some PVA glue, and you can see how nicely that's framing the scenery away from the foam backfill. And this area is coming along very nicely. More vegetation and things to be put up here, fences and whatnot and everything else. The Signal box, I'm just going to leave it as is and possibly just use it as a relay hub, so all the cable trunking and everything will probably just divert back into there. Signals and everything, of course, to go in yet. Station platforms, and of course I've still got all of the back scene behind those canopies to do. You can see there's been some work done. I'm very happy with how it's turning out. Castle again going up the top there. But that'll just about do it for this video, and it's a nice and quick one. So you can put these together for very little cost and money. And I've got to be honest, with some weathering and some additional scenery detailing, that's going to look really good. Really happy with how the hillsides turned out. Really happy. You can just see there's some obvious corners there, so I'll soften that with some more highlights and darken it down a bit. And of course the platforms and the ballasting still yet to be finished, so that's the next thing on the list. But that's all for me for now. So just in regards to recent subscribers, we're up to 840 of you now. Thank you very much to all of you guys for subscribing to the channel. Really appreciate your support. So until the next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you found this video informative. Not the best video I've ever made, I'll concede, but I just wanted to get something out and show you the progress of the layout. So next time I'll work towards a better, more instructive video. But until next time, folks, thanks very much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Happy model railroading. Ciao.